Hello and welcome to Lesson 4 of Carry the Fire. For the first few weeks, we focused heavily on understanding and on changing the lens through which you see yourself and the world. The thought being that sometimes understanding alone can change everything. So when I was growing up, there was a movie called The Sixth Sense. It's about a boy who can see and talk to dead people, and a child psychologist who is trying to help him. For almost the entire movie, everything seems normal. The psychologist talks with the boy and they meet, they work through his problems. The story makes sense, but then at the very end there's a twist. So spoiler alert here, at the very end you find out the psychologist has been dead the entire time. It's one of those moments where you're like saying out loud, wait, what? And then it all clicks, like the whole movie, all the scenes you've seen in the past, suddenly everything makes sense. You replay those earlier scenes, the moments that felt ordinary now feel obvious, and you wonder how you missed this the whole time. It was right in front of you. Nothing about the movie changed, but your understanding of the movie did. And once you see this ending, once you see that twist, you can't unsee it. If you watch the movie again, it wouldn't feel like the same story at all. And so that's kind of been the goal of this first part of the program, to give you frame shifts that permanently change how you interpret your experience in the world, so that your beliefs, expectations, and behaviors begin to naturally change. The way you interpret life begins to change. One of the most important frame shifts we've worked on thus far is that idea that you were shaped by a hunter-gatherer world. Every instinct, drive, craving, and blind spot you have was forged for you to thrive in the hunter-gatherer world. And many modern temptations are going to exploit that wiring, all right? They're exploiting that every day. Many modern struggles come from the mismatch between your ancient needs and your modern environment. Simply seeing this pattern helps to explain a lot, from health to motivation and happiness. And for many people, that understanding alone is going to lead to better choices. All right, so that's kind of been our goal so far. But the other side of the coin is that sometimes knowing is not enough. Part of being human is this strange gap between understanding and action. You can know exactly what needs to be done and still struggle to do it. You can genuinely want to change and still fall short. Derek Sivers captures this perfectly in his quote, "If more information was the answer, then we'd all be millionaires with perfect abs." I love that quote because it captures something so true. We're not lacking information. We live in an age of infinite information. We know we should eat better, move more, sleep more, read more, manage our time better, control our emotions, set goals, stop procrastinating, and follow through on commitments. We know we should do these things because they will help us build meaningful lives. Most of us don't lack knowledge, we lack follow-through. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to begin understanding behavior, willpower, discipline, and the art and skill of being who you want to be. But first, I have another pattern that I want you to see about the world. Rather than explain it, I want to show it to you. In the 1980s and 90s, scientists built a massive closed ecological system called Biosphere 2. Imagine kind of like a rainforest enclosed in a glass dome, a perfectly controlled environment completely sealed off from the outside world. Some believed it could one day serve as a model for colonizing Mars. At first, everything looked incredible. The trees grew quickly, they were lush, tall, and healthy, but then they started falling over, all of them. Any idea why that might have happened? The scientists had recreated nearly every aspect of a natural environment. They had made it perfect for growth, except for one thing: wind. You see, trees, like all living organisms, depend on stress to stimulate a reciprocal strengthening effect. Without winds that stress, the trees never developed strong root systems or tough trunks. They grew tall without developing the strength to support themselves. So when they reached a certain height, they simply fell over and collapsed. And here's the principle: resistance and adaptation. Every living system depends on resistance to stimulate growth. You know this intuitively. You lift heavy things and your muscles adapt and strengthen. You run repeatedly and your cardiovascular capacity increases. You quiz yourself and study for a test, and your knowledge and your intellectual capacity will improve. Stress triggers adaptations. But the deeper lesson of Biosphere 2 is this: we don't just adapt to stress, we actually need it, we require it. Without stress, we don't flourish, we weaken. Think about your immune system. Without exposure to microbes, it doesn't become stronger. In fact, it can turn against itself. This is one reason we see more autoimmune disorders in our hyper-sterile modern environments than in the developing world. Allergies are the same. We've learned that early exposure to foods like peanuts and eggs can dramatically reduce the risk of developing allergies later. Shielding children from all stress doesn't protect them, it leaves them more fragile. And this same pattern shows up psychologically. There's a sociologist named Glenn Elder who studied young people who lived through the Great Depression and World War II. Many of these people faced extraordinary hardships, but they surprisingly emerged stronger because of them. But there was a crucial exception. Those young people who had been heavily sheltered early in life and then faced their first major challenges later on, they often crumbled. Like trees that grew too tall without wind, they had missed this critical window for developing resilience. They had got their first challenges too late. Strength requires resistance. Resilience requires stress. Growth requires challenge. This isn't just true of muscles or the immune system, it's true of your character. If you want to pursue arete, if you want to become more fully what you're capable of becoming, you can't avoid this reality. You have to lean into challenge intentionally. And that's where training comes in. Training is not something you dabble in for a few weeks. It's not a phase. It's a way of life. It's central to the life well lived. Now, that doesn't mean that you should live in like this constant state of suffering. Right? You don't have to be David Goggins. Rest, leisure, and even carefree fun are not weaknesses. They're essential to the good life. In physical training, recovery is just as important as stress. Too much stress or stress without recovery doesn't make you stronger. It will break you down. So the dose matters. This follows a biological principle called hormesis. Small, controlled doses of stress that would be harmful at higher levels, is going to trigger a beneficial adaptation. Over time, you become stronger and more capable of handling greater challenges. And that's the goal. We want to build towards something significant. We're going to have a genuine rite of passage, but we're going to build up to that gradually. Progress takes time. You're going to go much further in your life committing to consistent small training than trying to shock yourself with extreme practices every now and then, all right, and then going back to just sitting around. Consistency is the single most important variable. Throughout the program, I'm going to be prescribing a few specific training practices. And these are going to vary because they're designed to develop specific different virtues. For the first virtue we're going to focus on is toughness. Specifically, we're going to focus on building your will, and we've already been focusing on that. So let me be clear about what I mean by toughness. I don't mean acting tough. I don't mean like posturing or this false bravado, pretending you don't feel discomfort or any of that. Real toughness is quieter than that. Real toughness is the ability to do what needs to be done when it's uncomfortable. People who lack toughness tend to become selfish under discomfort. When they're tired, cold, hungry, or stressed, they're going to retreat into themselves. They stop showing up. They avoid responsibility. They look for excuses. Toughness is what allows you to train your body even when you don't feel like it. It's what allows you to take your kids out to play when it's cold outside and you just want to chill. It's what helps you clean up when you're exhausted, keep your word when quitting would be easier. More than that, so many of the deepest joys, pleasures, and satisfactions in life are only on the other side of challenge and discomfort. They require some toughness, discipline, and endurance. That's why toughness really is a virtue. And like every virtue, it has to be trained. Nearly every great civilization understood this. Young men were taught to master their minds and emotions by first mastering their bodies. It's the portal. This is one of many reasons why all young men should compete in team athletics. The body is the portal. In my in-person group, my in-person men's group we talked about, every meeting began the same way. Before we talked, before we sat down, each man stepped into the cold plunge, 3 minutes in 47-degree water. No one wanted to do it, and that's kind of the point. There may be health benefits to cold plunging, but the deeper benefit is learning to act independently of your emotion, to do the hard thing, the necessary thing, even when every signal in your body is telling you not to. That capacity to overcome impulse, to do what you said you would do, is foundational to becoming who you were meant to become. It's foundational to being a man. And this brings us back to that quote from Derek Sivers. If more information was the answer, then we'd all be millionaires with perfect abs. Acting is the secret to life. We so often know what we should do, but we just don't do it. And starting is usually the hardest part. Action changes everything. The ability to act, to begin acting, has to be trained. Willpower is no different than strength or any other skill. It's trained progressively. It grows over time, allowing for greater self-mastery, stronger character, and a wider capacity to do the hard things that make life better. As you read after Lesson 1, the Sioux understood this deeply. From a young age, they required boys and young men to undergo consistent forms of physical training, including exercise, cold exposure, and many other things. So we're going to start there to help cultivate discipline. You are a man. You should be physically fit. You should be capable of mastering your emotions and willingly entering discomfort in service of something larger than yourself. That capacity is not automatic. It's trained. And this is where the path becomes real. Up until now, much of this program has reshaped how you see the world. But from here forward, we begin reshaping how you live in it. This week, I want you to begin consistent physical training, not as a phase, not as a summer experiment, but as a lifelong discipline. Barring injury or illness, or maybe your honeymoon somewhere down the road, you will train your body every week for the rest of your life. That's the standard. That commitment will change your life. And it is consistency, not intensity, that matters most, especially at first. So this week, commit to the following. First, you're going to continue to take a cold shower every day except for Sunday. But let's bump it up this time. Turn the water as cold as it will go and stay in it for a full 2 minutes. Second, if you aren't already, it's time to commit to a consistent, well-rounded exercise routine at least 4 days per week. As a strength and conditioning coach, designing programs like this has been my career. There are countless effective approaches. If you're already an athlete or training 4 more days per week, just stay consistent for now, because adding more could actually interfere with your results. And before adding anything, if you still want to add something, it is always best to ask your strength and conditioning coach if you're already on a program. Because without proper planning, the work you add could actually take away from the effectiveness of the program you're already on. For everyone else, I'm going to provide 2 options. One for those who want to train with minimal equipment, but still maximal results. The other option is a more structured weight room program focused on strength training, compound lifts, athletic conditioning, general mobility. And if you have access to a weight room and know how to safely use it, that strength track is probably going to be better. If not, the calisthenics track is great. Both are going to build toughness, both build discipline, and both work great. I'm going to have a lot of other supplements in a folder for you, so you're going to have some options. Finally, if possible, I'd like you to train at least once per week with your mentor. If you're doing this with a cohort of other young men, with your entire group. Because few things build connection and accountability like shared effort. Depending on the specifics of your training program, even if you are currently an athlete following a team program, you may be able to add one fun workout per week to do with your mentor. So consult with your strength and conditioning coordinator to see if that's okay for you to add a simple calisthenic focused workout each weekend. People tend to start off their training at 1,000,000 miles per hour and then fall off. Consistency is the #1 variable. So we're starting with a habit that we want to build for a lifetime. Barring sickness, extreme injury, or some vacations, you will train your body every week for the rest of your life. This is an essential part of your life now. So no need to rush into crazy workouts. It's about progression and consistency. Figure out your baseline, we did that last week. Then meet yourself where you are, better every day. This is where the path becomes real. Thank you for being here today. You're going to jump right into the discussion questions now and make sure you take your time going through some of those workout materials. Thanks. Carry the fire.